Supersonic had like a one-day opening, and then it's been sort of playing variously around and about since then. So I went down to the Screen on the Green which must be near to you, Screen on the Green in Islington.
That's North London.
Yes. Do you go to that cinema a lot?
I used to.
Fine. And it's weird. It's got like a bar at the back, and
buy
nice
slices
places
of cake, that kind of
to go and see Supersonic, which is this documentary by Matt Whitecross, who made Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll on Spike Island, about the rise of Oasis. And I said before when we were talking about this that I was never a huge Oasis fan. The documentary basically follows their career from them being kids up to the Nebworth gig, which, correct me if I'm wrong, 1996, so is 20th anniversary. And it's a compilation of archive material, which has got clips from the television, home movies, backstage movies, with off-screen narration by the main players. And it's a very, very affectionate, very intimate. And I have to say, as somebody who's not a huge Oasis fan, I mean, I think they had good tunes and everything, but I don't, what I know about Oasis will fill the back of a postage stamp. I was at Radio 1, same as you were, when, the whole Oasis thing was right. So I heard those songs, they're unbelievably catchy, but I was just never a huge fan. But it's a very engaging and intimate look at the band, obviously centering, for obvious reasons, on the rivalry or the strange love-hate relationship between the brothers. Here's a clip.
Liam was always cooler than me, I think. He had a better walk, and clothes looked better on him, and he was taller, and he had a better haircut, and he was funnier. Liam clearly would have liked to have had my talent as a songwriter. No, that's not me. You look as old as I am. What's all that about? And there's not a day go by where I don't wish I could rock a parka like that man.
5 years younger than I am. That's what it's about. Come on, yeah, that's what it's about, man.
I know Noel thinks I'm brilliant. We didn't need to pat each other on the back and go, oh, you're great. Me and him are like telepathic, you know what I mean?
Kiss for the camera.
There was a period where he was the greatest singer in the world. Added to that, the greatest frontman. Added to that, a good-looking boy as well. They were the magic years, The trick is keeping that going.
I do think that the key to any rock documentary is twofold. Firstly, it's if you know the band, does it get under their skin? And secondly, if you don't know the band, is it engaging and does it make you want to know more? And as somebody who was in the second camp, I found that it did. I found it was very funny. I liked the way that it had very thorough documentation of how the songs came about, particularly how the sound of recording the songs came about. There's a lot of interesting discussion about trying to get the live sound in the studio, then getting the live mixer to do it, and then it not working, and then a producer finally finding the sound that we all then think of as being the Oasis sound. Stuff that I didn't know. Well, most of the stuff I didn't know. I mean, the fact that it was the other brother who was in the band first and then got in. Nolly, you always think of as the songwriter, the kind of the driving force behind this, but he was actually off doing roadie stuff with another band. I thought it made the rivalry between the two brothers. They both came across as sweeter than you would expect, because so much of Oasis was to do with that kind of, chin forward, sort of aggressive stuff. I remember them coming on Radio 1 when I was there, and it was a very sweary interview with Steve Lamacq, and you remember that, and there was a lot of that going on. Although, and the documentary at the beginning does say, when the certificate comes up, contains very strong language. But actually, there is a sweetness about them. That you don't necessarily expect. I think that Doc seems to me to be very even-handed, leads up to this huge, great big gig, and then some people have complained that what it doesn't do is then complete and do the fallout. But I thought it ended at the place that it needed to end. And as somebody, as I said, as somebody who is not an Oasis fan and don't have any problem with them, as somebody who's not an Oasis fan, I was first astonished by how many of those riffs and how many of those tunes I knew. I mean, it's funny as well seeing people rehearsing in the Boardwalk in Manchester, because those are rehearsal rooms that everybody who was ever in bands in Manchester in the 80s or 90s all know that stuff inside out. I also thought they reminded me oddly of that quality that the Smiths had when they finished their first album, The Smiths, and Morrissey was saying, I think it's the greatest rock album ever made. And there is something about having to have that level of self-belief that is sort of charming and youthful and naive. And I thought it was a really engaging documentary, and I really didn't expect it to be, and I was really won over by it. And The other people who are in the audience all seem to me to be much more hardcore Oasis fans, and as far as I could tell from the laughter in the room and the way the film seemed to be playing, it was working for them. So if it works for somebody like me who knows virtually nothing about them and works for the audience who are clearly the devotees, then it's succeeded across the board, and good for it. I thought it was a really strong piece of work.